The news begins in Nigeria's southeast, where the Imo State Commissioner of Police, Aboki Danjuma, has increased police presence in the Owerri West local government area of the state. And this is to curb the upsurge in the violent crimes like kidnapping, rape and murder in a forest spanning across the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, Nekede, Hiagwa, Avu and Obenzi communities, all in the Owerri West local government area. On January 24, the command said its operatives rescued the immediate past chairman of the Imo State Council of Traditional Rulers, Samuel Ohiri, from the kidnappers' den after spending about 3 weeks there. Abduction is one of the most prominent vices in the state and other parts of the country. The police command in Kaduna State says its operatives have arrested 8 persons suspected to be highway robbers on the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway. In a statement, the public relations officer, Masir Hassan in Kaduna, said that operatives from Toll Gate Divisional Headquarters, while on patrol along Kaduna-Abuja Expressway on January 27, arrested 7 suspects while gearing up to operate. The patrol team, at about 1,100 hours, sighted and intercepted a suspicious vehicle with 7 passengers who were met changing their clothing to seemingly operational ones. In the course of the investigation, a locally fabricated pistol with 3 live 20-gauge shotgun cartridges were recovered from them. The 8th member of the syndicate, Yusuf Damakodi, was arrested by the Divisional Police Headquarters in Tafa. And still on insecurity issues, the sum of 100 million naira has been donated for the rehabilitation of victims of the Mango violent attacks that left many dead and several injured. The money was presented by the People's Democratic Party Governors Forum when they paid a condolence visits on the governor of Plateau State in Jos. News Central's Chizoba Anyanwe was there and reports.
It's 1 week after the last attack broke out in Mangu local government area of Plateau State. Calm has since been restored by security agencies, but victims are still facing the aftermath of the incident. Groups and individuals have been visiting the governor to condole with him, as well as present financial and other assistance for the benefit of the victims. Most recent is the PDP Governors Forum, made up of 13 governors, but only 5 of them were able to make it for this visit.
We will be with you to support you because we know that you are not sentimental. You don't show any sign, and because we have looked at all the issues on the ground, we urge you to be strong and to continue to dispense good leadership that the PDP governments are known for. We really bear with you with this very sorry state that happened to the Plateau. But it is a big distraction. But definitely we know we are not insurmountable.
For him, the essence of state policing cannot be overemphasized if the security architecture of Nigeria will be reversed.
We ask the Nigerian government to look at this crisis not as sectarian or a sectional one, because this crisis has been linked on the Plateau. I believe we should be allowed as governors to have state police, because we know the nooks and crannies of this state. Good governance means safety and security even before development.
The elated governor of Plateau, who commended the visit of his colleagues, called for concerted effort in restoring peace in the state.
By the grace of God, we are not deterred. We are also trying to ensure that we build inter- and intra-community harmony. One thing I have said consistently since becoming governor is that nobody can go it alone. We need unity across the divides of faith, across the divides of ethnicity. If we don't achieve it, it's going to be difficult for the country to be secure.
The governor maintained that if the series of attacks in the state are not addressed and treated as criminality, containing it will remain a mirage. In Jos for News Central, I am Chizoba Anyanwe.
And to talk about this, I've been joined live by a public affairs analyst, Chukwuma Okenwa. Good afternoon from here. It's good to have you join me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I mean, recently there was a call made by the PDP Governors Forum on the need for state police. What's your impression of this?
Well, I think this call has been long overdue. You know, we've seen governors once in a while advocate for that, but I think the approach and the argument of the governors, it's not really strong enough and might not really help security much. Now, what do I mean by that? It appeared that the governors forum, the basis of actually, reiterating this has always been that the Nigeria police force has not been able to live up to the true creed of its very creation, which is to provide internal security. So, we see like a failing Nigeria police. But then one of the things I want the governors to appreciate as the chief security officers of their state is that what we have is the Nigeria police force, not the federal police force. There's no place in the constitution that provides for the federal police force. And what that means to me, and you know that out of all of the local governments and federal councils, that's area councils in Abuja, the only place that is owned by the federal government is actually the Federal Capital Territory. The rest of the local government areas is under the control of the governors. And the Constitution provides for the police council, which is made up of the president, the IGP, and all the 36 governors, and their role is to spell out how they want the police force to be both to be administered and to be organized. Unfortunately, they have not lived up to this responsibility. What we just see is like cries, as if to say there's any place that provides that the Nigeria police force is going to be entirely controlled by Mr. President. Yes, we know that there are some clauses that makes it a bit challenging for them to be under the whims and caprices of the police force. But the Constitution also provides for that partnership between the governors and the police force to ensure that the states are better secured. On monthly basis, they get the security votes. What do they do with that? There are some cases where police, complain of, lack of operational vehicles. Yet most states on monthly basis get over 600 million. Some states get up to 1 billion. What do they use these funds to? What are they doing to ensure that the police council is living up to its responsibility and that the Nigerian police force is reorganized to serve the Nigerian people?
Chukwuma, let's backtrack a bit and talk about, how certain states, in a bid to curb insecurity, set up their own form of security body. Like we have the likes of Amoteco in the southwest and also Ebubedike in the southeast. How will you assess their performance in curbing these menace of insecurity?
In all honesty, we've seen that despite even the Amoteco, some want to maybe try to sometimes, we can't deny the fact that some success has been recorded, but it still has not addressed the major issue. I mean, Amoteco, both in capacity, in sagacity, in facility, can never compete with the Nigeria police force. Now, what do I really think that as a nation we need to do? How much is even the salary of the police officer that is there? What is the level of morale? So we need to have a situation where the morale of our police officers is boosted. They are given training, they are retrained, and they also have the facilities to provide security all across the nation. A situation where we've not been able to even fund the Nigeria police force, and the governors are thinking maybe that, I mean, when you have state police force, won't you pay them? Would it still be the federal government that will pay them? Whilst they have not been able to handle some basic things that are in their own residual list, things like education, things like health. Do you know that even in modern day Nigeria, there are some states that have only one general hospitals that cannot serve all of the local governments? They have areas to invest in, because when you talk about security, it shouldn't just be all about the kinetics. You also look about the human security. What about job security, food security? People feeling cared for by the nation, such that they are not going to resort to crime. It's an integral component of security that we must not lose sight of. It's not also about equipping, empowering some set of people to oppress anyone, even if one of the things motivating them to steal would be the austerity that is in the nation. Well, it's okay to equip those that will just, apprehend them as much as they commit crime. But I can tell you that corruption world over is known that it has a nexus with the living standards of the people.
If I may quickly chip in there, Chukwuma.
Officers almost nothing,
yes.
And expect them to function efficiently.
If I may, like Chukwuma, just a moment, Chukwuma. I mean, there's a need. I mean, this clamor for state police, I mean, there are fears and reservations as to some state governors misusing state police. What do you make of that?
That fear is real. However, let me say that with time, because my position about the state police, it is something certainly is a conversation we should have another day, somewhere in the future. But we don't need to begin to replicate agencies like we've seen in time past in Nigeria. We say, okay, this is not efficient. Let's create this like today. Now, tell me what's the difference between civil defense and Nigeria Police Force? Some of these other agencies that have been created over time, what difference did it make in the security architecture of the nation? So the argument will be that when the time comes, and at the moment, due to the way things are really being handled in the nation, and especially at the state level, where governors are emperors, practically emperors. Look at what they have done with the state electoral commissions. Is there any nation that maybe when a governor coordinates maybe under his watch, the electoral commission will produce one candidate that is from another party, apart from the ruling party? That has never happened in modern day Nigeria. So imagine what the Nigeria Police Force will be. I mean, once they create this state police force, what I see is that there's going to be like a kind of a battle between the state police force and the Nigeria Police Force, because I still insist there's nothing like federal police force. It is the Nigeria Police Force, and the governors should work with them the same way you have other commissioners in the state. I mean, the #1 police officer in the state is referred to as the commissioner of police, and there's a reason for that. The commissioner of police, I mean, when they have security meetings with the governor on weekly basis, the same way governors meet with the other commissioners. So you must work with that commissioner as partners. You know, even when they want to compromise the police force, they don't need the IGP. I mean, when governors want to compromise them for state election.
Okay,
so when
let's talk a bit about perpetrators. If I may just, apologies for cutting you short there, Chukwuma. Let's talk a bit about perpetrators of kidnapping. Do you think there are punitive measures in place for perpetrators of kidnapping so as to serve as deterrents to others?
There are already laws, there are already provisions. One of the major challenges we've had in this nation is actually no consequences. And the law on its own, it's merely a provision when it appears that there is no force behind it, you know, to bring perpetrators to book. You know, oftentimes, like that reminds me of the past president of the nation. You always hear anytime we have like masses destroyed, you hear that those perpetrators will launch a manhunt and then they'll be brought to book. And I keep wondering, what manner of book is this that doesn't get filled? And yet, we've not had a case where this book, maybe it was reviewed, those that are enlisted in the book and what was done for them. And nothing incentivizes crime such that when people, you know, commit crime, they go scot-free. People see those who were paraded, maybe like on television or newspapers, and the next day they are released back to the society. I mean, that should not happen.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the news. Chukwuma Okenwa, a public affairs analyst. Thank you once again.
Welcome.
Thank you for staying tuned. An appeal has gone to the federal government of Nigeria to stop the Navy from destroying refining sites tagged illegal in Niger Delta. President of the Nigeria Union of Local Government Employees, Ambali Olatunji, who made the call, said President Bala should prevail on the Nigerian Navy to stop destroying refining sites in the Niger Delta region. The union also called on the federal government to consider licensing more modular refineries that have the capacity to refine crude oil. On security, the union urged the federal government to allow the local government to implement community policing in protecting the lives and property of citizens within their jurisdiction. And small-scale women farmers in Nigeria have called for the effective implementation of national gender policy on agriculture to help boost production and ensure food security. They said the policy, which seeks to bridge the gender disparity in accessing agricultural inputs, has not yielded significant result since its launch 2019. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
Small-scale women farmers play a significant role in Nigeria's agricultural sector. making up about 70% of the workforce and producing about 60% of the food Nigerians eat. However, these women are confronted with the challenge of accessing the needed farm inputs when compared to their male counterparts. To bridge the gaps witnessed in the sector, the National Gender Policy on Agriculture was launched in 2019 to ensure equal opportunities and access to resources, services, and agricultural programs, regardless of gender. But many believe that the policy has not been effectively implemented.
The issue of just talking that women need this, need that, is not what we want. How many years have we been talking about that smallholder woman farmer needs this? The actual thing needed is what? Implementation. And this is what we want. We want to see that women are given what they need.
If you check the data and indices available, you see that with the fuel subsidy removal, with high inflation, food price crisis, that more Nigerians are struggling, people are getting poorer.
At this forum for stakeholders to assess the level of implementation and brainstorm on effective ways to implement the policy in the country, stakeholders say addressing gender disparity in the agricultural sector is key to tackling the high rate of poverty and food insecurity. They also urge states to ensure that these farmers are targeted, especially those living in rural communities.
With the implementation of the policy document, I have no doubt there will be positive outcomes in bridging gender gap, empowering women, and enhancing food security. I therefore call on all stakeholders in the agricultural sector to support the implementation of the policy, most importantly at the state level where these farmers are based.
Effective implementation of the policy can actually lead to closing the gender gap in agriculture and rural labor markets. It can contribute to our achieving food security. So that's what we are doing. So we all recognize that more needs to be done, and that's why we are organizing this forum to push for more to be done in terms of the policy.
With agriculture considered to be the main source of livelihood for rural dwellers, especially women, it is expected that recommendations from this forum will serve as a blueprint to integrate women farmers. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Makoko is a 19th century Lagos slum, formerly a fishing village and one of the oldest slums in Nigeria, yet an area of startling patchy development. Exposed to low hygiene and sanitary conditions and extreme weather conditions, the people of Makoko are sitting ducks of climate change and its rancid effect on human health. News Central's Bettina Nweli reports. Staying in West Africa, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, in charge of civic education and citizen building in Mali, has held a meeting on Thursday aimed at supporting the country's withdrawal from ECOWAS. The meeting was attended by the Ministers of Industry and Commerce, the Minister of Foundation, and the Minister of Youth and Sport. This national mobilization also took place simultaneously in other regions of Mali.
Et le Mali a souffert pendant 10 ans. Le Mali a souffert. Et quand on a libéré Kidal enfin, qu'est-ce que la CEDEAO a fait? Elle n'a pas fait de communiqué. Donc la CEDEAO nous a suspendu de ces instances. Quand le digne président patriote colonel Assimi Goïta est venu, la CEDEAO nous a suspendu de ces instances. Donc, puisque la CEDEAO ne veut pas travailler avec nous, je ne vois pas comment on pourra travailler avec la CEDEAO, parce que c'est une affaire de souveraineté. Et la CEDEAO est une entrave à la souveraineté de toute l'Afrique.
Aujourd'hui, nous appelons tous les États de l'Afrique à l'union sacrée. Cette institution qu'est la CEDEAO a montré toutes ses limites. La CEDEAO ne peut plus produire vraiment quelque chose de potable au peuple africain. C'est pourquoi nous avons tout le temps dit que ce n'est plus la CEDEAO des peuples, mais plutôt la CEDEAO des chefs d'État.
Le Burkina Faso, le Mali et le Niger retrouvent leur liberté sur le plan politique, diplomatique, économique, dans la perspective de consolider et préserver cet acquis historique et fondamental pour le développement et l'épanouissement de l'ensemble des populations de nos pays de l'AES. Nous devrons rester unis, vigilants, en vue de faire face.
The news continues in Southern Africa, where a teenager from South Africa has taken a life after she failed matriculation examinations. Anthali Magale from Klexdrop in Northwest Province was looking forward to studying engineering. However, she did poorly in the mathematics and physical science, the main subject she needed to study, the course of her choice. Northwest Police spokesperson Brigadier Sabata Mogwambun confirmed the incident and an investigation docket has been opened. According to statistics released by the South African Depression and Anxiety Group in 2023, 9% of all teenage deaths are suicide, and the numbers keep increasing. To talk about this, I'm being joined by the spokesperson, South African Depression and Anxiety Group, Roshni Sitha. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
I mean, we've seen more cases coming from South Africa regarding learners who kill themselves after writing examinations. But help us understand what goes through the mind of a learner, who fails an examination and then begins to have suicidal thoughts.
So we don't necessarily have numbers rising after the matric exams, just like we don't have numbers rising during Christmas, for example. What happens is that we talk about it a lot more. So it seems like there are a lot more suicides. Suicides are happening throughout the year. But what happens in the mind of a matriculant, and we have to remember, is that it's such a difficult time of the year. As parents, we don't speak to our kids from grade 1 about the importance of education. And so in grade 12, we put all this pressure on this child to actually succeed and make a success of themselves, because our future depends on their success. And so as a matriculant, all of that pressure is on them. And in their mind, they are thinking, if I don't do as well as I am supposed to, I am letting everyone down. There is no plan B. This is all that there is for me. And unfortunately, that's just not true. These youngsters need to understand that there is a plan B, there's a plan C, there's 10 different plans that you can think of if plan A doesn't work.
Roshni, are there any specific factors or pressures, that contribute to these mindsets among learners?
Financial pressure is the big one. A lot of these kids are finding that financial pressure within the family is a problem. So we've paid so much to get you through matric, you better pass, you better do well. If you succeed and become something good, you'll get us out of this situation. Bullying is a big issue, and it's not just bullying of students between students or bullying between each other. It's bullying in general. It's students bullying teachers, teachers bullying students. It's family members bullying each other. And so bullying is a big issue. And so you find that my neighbor is smarter than me, and I have to now do as well as she does. And the reality is that we are not all cut from the same cloth. We are not all going to be doctors. And imagine the world full of doctors. You need plumbers, and you need electricians, and you need doctors, and you need dentists, and you need beauticians. And so that's why the world is so colorful, because there's so many different types of people in the world. And our youngsters need to remember that you don't have to be a doctor. You can be what you can do the best at. You can be that person. There is something that you can achieve.
But then, what are some of the warning signs that indicate a learner may be at risk of suicidal thoughts?
So one of the warning signs is they could either be sleeping too much or sleeping too little. So signs of depression, basically, eating too much or eating too little. Maybe talking about wanting to take their lives or talking very negatively. So we need to look out for signs like that. Are they speaking? Are we speaking to our kids? Are we asking them those questions? Are you okay? What are you feeling nervous about? What is your plan A? What is your plan B? Often our kids say or do things that give us an idea that, wait, something is not so right. They speak often, and maybe not to us as parents, they might speak to a good friend's mom or dad. So we need to listen out. But signs of withdrawal, signs of being very sad, signs of feeling I'm not good at anything. So we need to look out for those signs. And as a parent, it's not always easy to look out for those signs. So if you are not sure, contact the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Reach out to us on our website or on one of our helplines, and we can help you go through those signs and say, look, that's normal. This is what they're feeling. Maybe ask them this. As a parent, it's hard to try and figure out, or even a family member or community member, to figure out why our kids are not feeling great right now.
Roshni, let's talk about the role academics, play, a learner's academic performance play in a learner's overall mental well-being.
Yeah, unfortunately, our kids feel that if I am not academically excellent, I'm not great. And that's not true. Because, for example, I hated maths and science, but I was really good at the languages. And we are all different, and that's what I said before. I think we don't all have to achieve what everybody else is achieving. We can be doing something really good somewhere else in another field. And I think everyone needs to remember that. So academics, and as I mentioned to you earlier, as parents and as family members and as community, we need to start implementing in our kids in grade 1 how important education is, so that for 12 years they understand that importance. As opposed to in grade 12 finally saying to them, right, this is the year, this is make or break. And so academics play a large part on the mental health of a student, because they believe if I don't do this, then I have no future. And the reality is that there is still a future, because you are actually excellent at something. It may not be maths, it may not be English, but you are excellent at something, and you will be able to achieve in that field.
Finally, Roshni, how important is it for learners to have a support system in place, during these difficult times?
It's so important. I think we all found that during COVID. I think we knew that support was important, but we didn't realize until COVID, when you realize I need someone to support me. And it's that saying of you can't pour from an empty cup. You always need someone to fill that cup for you. And so having that support is so important, and especially for our teenagers. And that support doesn't always have to be mom or dad. Often kids don't have that relationship with mom or dad. And it may be a teacher or a coach or a family member or an aunt or an uncle or an older sibling, older cousin, a family member, a grandma. But the important thing about this is that there is support. And sometimes that support may not be in your family. It might be someone on the other side of the phone, and someone at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. That may be your support system. But the truth is that we all have some sort of support. It's just trying to figure out where to find that support.
Thank you so much for your expertise on the news, Roshni Sitha. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Zambia's former president, Edgar Lungu, has asked citizens to call for an early election, accusing his successor, Hakainde Hichilema, of failing to run the economy. He also accused Hichilema of failing to manage the cholera outbreak, which has claimed the lives of nearly 600 people since last October. Meanwhile, Lungu announced a comeback to politics last October, prompting the government to withdraw his retirement benefits. In East Africa, search and rescue efforts are underway following the gas explosion in Kenya. The governor of Nairobi County, Johnson Sakaja, also waived medical bills for the injured and bereaved who are being treated at facilities run by the county government. The county is also working with other agencies to deliver relief items to those affected by the fire, which took place late on Thursday. In the meantime, victims of a huge fire in Nairobi are being treated at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital after a truck laden with gas canisters exploded in a densely populated area in the Kenyan capital. Some of them who narrated the horrible experience said they had an explosion and stepped out only to see a big ball of fire in the air. A truck laden with gas canisters exploded in a densely populated area of the Kenyan capital, setting off a huge blaze that killed 3 people and injured 280. The blast occurred in the residential area in the southeast of Nairobi, ravaging many properties and vehicles and sending local residents running for their lives.
Nasikia mlipuko, unalipuka. Sasa wakati nimetoka nje, moto niliona ni moto, ni wingu la moto ulikuwa hapo nje. Baada hapo sasa nikaanza kutoroka ndio moto ukatushikia kwa barabara. Wakati huo kuna ile mlipuko mkubwa ulikuwa umetokea juu paka moto ukakuwa juu ya hewa. Sasa hata ile moto ulituchoma ni ule uko juu ya hewa, si chini.
Kulingana na bila nasikia katika hiyo kampuni ya gas, nilisikia kuna ngali ilikuja na hiyo mitungi ya gas ikukuwa na leakage. Na wakati mwenye hiyo ngali alikuja start ngali akitaka kwenda, ndio niliona kulingana na pile najua nikaona moto imetokea.
Siwezi jua wenye walifariki, lakini kuna nyana wajua kama wawili. Kuna rafiki yangu mmoja tunafanya kazi naye buchari. Bibi alifariki na mtoto wake hapo. Kuanzia hapo mimi nilibebwa kwa motorbike.
South Sudan Inspector General of Police, General Atem Marul, has directed a newly appointed Director General of Civil Registry, Nationality, Passport and Immigration, Major General Majur, to start the production of East African passports within 3 months. In an address during the reception of the DG on Thursday in Juba, Atem stated the President, Salva Kiir, being the chair of the East Africa Community, means that the country must step up its immigration services and churn out the document. According to Atem, the Director General will be given directives by the Minister of Interior according to the orders of the President in order for printing to start. In a joint operation, South African Department of Employment and Labour, together with Home Affairs Department and the police force, have joined forces to crack down on illegal activities at construction companies. Now, these relentless efforts aim to uncover and address a range of concerns, from violation of labour laws, illegal migration to potential human trafficking. The raids have been done in Johannesburg. News Centre's Bongani Sisiba has details.
It was a busy day for the law enforcement agencies as they tirelessly pursued illegal immigrants through thick bushes. Amidst the thick foliage, the bushes couldn't contain both the police and those who sought refuge, as the authorities were determined to apprehend those who hid away in the vast vegetation. One after the other, they were swiftly found and apprehended, and it was discovered that some of them were illegal and without proper work permits.
There were foreign nationals that do not have work permits to work in their country, and a number of them have been detained. It's quite a lot of them. I do not have their numbers now, but they are way above 35, and they are detained at the police station to establish their status in the country. But we suspect from the side of the Department of Home Affairs that they might be without work permits, and as a result have contravened not only immigration laws, but also the Employment Services Act of the Department of Employment and Labour.
The operation also included an inspection at the construction site by the Department of Employment and Labour, where issues of health and safety were discovered.
It's very pathetic because it's safety and health issues that are not complied with. Their scaffoldings are not compliant, and because they do not have edges. And unfortunately, they also dug a hole for electrical installation next to a scaffolding, which is dependable and can collapse the whole system of scaffolding. So as a result, we are forced to prohibit both sides.
At the second site in Johannesburg, a task force arrived at a Chinese construction site with information about suspicious activity and suspected immigration offenses. As they arrived, something unexpected happened. At this construction company, police have discovered hidden rooms with more than 50 Chinese nationals who are working and staying here. The police believe that this might be a human trafficking case. However, they are verifying their documents to see if they are legal in this country. As officers descended onto the secret rooms, the gravity of the situation became clear. It was clear that language had become a severe barrier. It was evident that these people had no idea what was going on or how to identify local police officers, including their uniforms. They appeared to be unaware that they were being arrested.
Our sister department, the Department of Home Affairs, has established that there are a number of foreign nationals that might not be having documentation, which is also a contravention of Employment Services Act of the Department of Employment and Labour, because it says a person who works in their country who is a foreign national must have a work permit that direct what is it the person must be doing in terms of the work that he will be doing in the country.
The majority of them told News Central off camera that they left China after being promised jobs, and when they arrived, the owner of the construction company took away their passports. Meanwhile, the Department of Employment and Labor says the operation will continue across the country and urges businesses to follow and comply with various labor rules. Law enforcement officials have also stated that they will continue their efforts to preserve order and defend national security. In Johannesburg, for News Central, Vongani Siziba.
And Zambia's former president, Edgar Lungu, has asked citizens to call for an early election, accusing his successor, Hakainde Hichilema, of failing to run the economy. He also accused Hichilema of failing to manage the cholera outbreak, which has claimed the lives of nearly 600 people since last October. Meanwhile, Lungu announced a comeback to politics last October, prompting the government to withdraw his retirement benefit. And to talk about this in detail, I'm being joined by a political analyst, Muyunda Kandama. Good afternoon from here. Glad to have you join me. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. The PDP governor has backed calls for creation of state police over rising insecurity. South Sudan's immigration boss is ordered to begin production of East African passports. We also told you that search and rescue were underway after Kenya's gas explosion left at least 3 dead and over 200 injured. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba.